Hey everybody, this is Mr. Storm, and today we are going to create this website. This is a number guessing game website. My game has you guess a number between 1 and 100, so I'm just going to put in 50 and we'll click guess. Oh, my guess was too high. Okay, so my guess was too high. Let's go 25. My guess was still too high. And I just click guess a bunch of times, so my score is going to be terrible. So let's try 13. Still too high. Let's try 8. Now it's too low. So let's try 10. Too high, so my guess is 9. It only took me 9 guesses. So that's essentially how the website works. So let's go ahead and create this project. I'm going to create an HTML, CSS, JavaScript. I'll call this number guess. And let's click create. Okay, so for this project, I'm going to walk you through the HTML and the CSS, and I'll walk you through part of the JavaScript. I'm not going to give you the entire project. I will get you I'll give you a good starting place, and then from there you can finish the project on your own. I don't want to do everything for you in this project. I'm going to start releasing the reins a bit, and you're going to have more and more control over your own projects. But let's start with the HTML. First, I'm going to change the title to number guessing game. Let's pop out my preview here, and we'll get rid of this window. Okay. Number guessing game. All right, in the body, I want to have a div that holds all of this content. So I will create a div. I'm going to give a class equal to, let's call it app. Oh, hello. Inside that div, I'm going to have an h1. With the text number guessing game. I will include a paragraph with instructions. Guess a number between 1 and 100. Okay, perfect. Then I want an input. Type equals text. ID will equal user. And let's create a button. The onClick method is, we'll just call it guess. Yeah, we'll just call it guess. We'll have to create that method in our JavaScript. And we'll say the button text will be guess. Then let's create another paragraph element down here with an ID of output. Output. There we go. And we're going to keep it empty. We're not going to put any text inside of that paragraph element yet. So let's run that. There we go. Number guessing game. Guess a number between 1 and 100. You put in your guess. Okay, cool. Now let's style this. The style is going to be pretty easy. Our style code can very easily come together. So let's change the background color, body. Background is going to be, I'm going to use 6D0909. So that dark red. We'll change the font. There we go. Arial, Helvetica, Sans Serif. Let's go ahead and style that app class. Okay. We'll give that a background of white. Set the margin to auto, so it automatically centers itself. Let's give it a bit of margin on the top. We'll say 5%. Let's set the width to 100% and the max width to 550 pixels. And let's give it some padding. 50 pixels is nice. Let's give it a border radius of 20 pixels. Sounds good. All right, let's take a look. Nice, that's looking pretty good. We got our background color. We've got this app class here in the middle. This div, perfect. Okay, what's next? Oh, let's style the button. So I want the button to be a lot nicer than that. So let's go ahead and style that. So button. Background. And I'm going to do DB6180. That's going to be a nice pink background color. Let's set the text color to white. Let's set the border radius to 20 pixels. Let's set the cursor to pointer. And the width will be 200 pixels. And the height will be 55 pixels. Okay. Nice, so that button's looking great. Let's format this text box so it looks kind of the same. So input, and we will set margin hyphen top to be 0. Padding left is going to be 20 pixels. Border radius is going to be 20 pixels, and we'll set the height to, let's say, 50 pixels. Okay, nice, looks pretty good. Okay, good. So everything looks good. We just need to format the paragraph element down here. Let's put some text in this paragraph down here. We'll say, we'll just put some gibberish text in there so we can see what it looks like. We want this to be much bigger. And I'm going to push it down from the top here so that it's not, yeah. So let's go into our style sheet, and we need to access that ID. So we can access the ID just by using the hashtag. And the reason why I'm doing that is because over here we've given it an ID and not a class. If we access just the paragraph element, it's also going to style this paragraph up here, which we don't want. So we're going to access the ID, so only things with this ID get the style that we're about to apply. So we're going to access the output ID, and let's give it some margin from the top. 30 pixels should be fine. And let's set the font size to be 25 pixels. Okay, let's refresh. There we go. That looks a lot better. I like that. Okay. Now let's go back and get rid of that text inside the paragraph element. We don't want it right now. We will have the JavaScript add text to the paragraph element whenever we have a result. Okay, so that is our HTML and our style, our CSS. Let's talk about the JavaScript. Now with this, we're going to use the random to generate a random number. We can actually just do that first. That way we have it. And we don't have to worry about getting the random number. Now we want this to happen, we want this random number to be generated when the page loads. So we don't want this to be inside of our guess function that we're going to create, because the guess function is going to be run every time we click the button. And if we click the button, we don't want to get a new random number, right? We want the random number to stay the same. And if we want to change the random number, all we have to do is refresh the web page. So let's start with getting our random number at the top, and then we can do everything else. So we'll say let comp equal math.floor. Math.floor is going to basically return an integer, but it's going to reduce, or it's going to round that integer down to the next number. So basically we're about to use math random. So let's go ahead and do that, math.random. which is going to return a number between 0 and 1. So it's going to be a decimal number of some point. We're going to multiply that number by 100, which is going to keep it a decimal number. It'll be, you know, we don't want the decimal. So math.floor is going to reduce that decimal, pull that decimal off. It's going to round down to the nearest. So math.random times 100. And that's going to return a random number between 0 and 100, right? If we wanted this to be 10, we could do, you know, times 10. If we wanted it, whatever. We can make this number whatever we want. But for this game, we're going to have the range be 100. Okay, so now we have our random number. Let's actually go ahead and just, hello. We're not going to, let's get a reference to this. Let output equal document.getElement, and let's get the output element. This is just testing. I'm just testing to see that we're getting a random number. So let's say output.innerHTML equals comp, just to see if our website works the way we want it to. So we refresh, we get 89, refresh 23, 50, 31, 52, 31, 3, 0. So 0 is probably not great. We don't want a 0 option. But I guess, so we could either change it here, or we can just say between 0 and 100, right? Just include 0 in the range. That way, if they do get 0, it's still a possible 50. All right. So yeah, we're getting random numbers every time I refresh the page. Okay, perfect. So now we know that's working. We can go ahead and get rid of this. This we're going to save for later because we're actually going to use that. We're going to create a reference to that later, so let's just save it. The other thing I want to do is I want a variable that tracks how many guesses the user has made. So let's create that variable here. We'll call it tries, and we'll set it to 0 at the beginning. So let tries equal 0. Okay, now what we can do is inside of the function that we're about to create, we can create references to the user input and the output. So we can do that inside the function. So let's go ahead and do that. So function guess. And so inside of this function, we'll have, oh, hello. We'll bring this line of code up into that function. And let's also create a reference to the text box. So let user equal document.getElement by ID. And that element is user. So now we have a reference to our text box and our output. Let's set our tries. Let's increase tries because this function is only going to run once the button is clicked, right? Because we have it set as our onClick method or our onClick function. So whenever we click the button, we're going to run this function, and we want tries to increase every time we click the button because we're trying again, right? Okay. So now that we have that, now we get into our if statements. This is where I'm going to essentially leave you. What we want is we want a series of if statements that essentially asks if the user.value is, you could start with equal to, right? So if user.value is equal to comp, then we change the output to say you won, it only took you this many tries, right? But if it's not, we can check user.value is greater than comp, right? Then you would change the output to say your guess was too high. And then the final thing, the else, we don't actually have to check to see if it's less than, because if it's not equal to and it's not greater than, it has to be less than. So then with the else, you can say your guess was too low, okay? And we'll basically just, that's all we need, right? I'm not going to write the if-else statements for you. I'm going to allow you to write those on your own. It's good practice to figure out, if you remember, it's good practice to try to review the stuff that we learned last time in class. So you should be able to get that functioning. But when you do, your game should work as I demonstrated before. You have a number, you guess it, your guess is too low, 75, still too low, 83, too high. So this should update as we go, right? Let's try 79. Hey, I got it right. It only took 4 guesses. So that's how your game should function when you're done, right? So it's up to you to write these if statements to make that game function properly. All right? Cool. I can't wait to see what you guys come up with. I think this is going to be a fun challenge. Let me know if you have any questions, and I'll see you next time.